I wanted to begin with chanting a mantra to create the ambiance, what I would call the spiritual ambiance. And so hopefully these mantras, you can say them and that I'm speaking them clearly enough, but the mantras are power words to help you with your spiritual evolution and awakening that presence inside you. So the first one that we can chant together, it's very easy. It's a Sanskrit mantra. It comes from India. It's a very old mantra. And it is Purnam Premam Saranam. Yeah, so Purnam means wholeness. Purnam. Purnam means wholeness. Premam means love. And Saranam means I surrender. So when you say the mantra, you're really saying I surrender to the wholeness of love. So that's our beginning invocation. And you can chant with me. Purnam Premam Saranam. 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 Purnam Premam And let's take in 3 deep breaths into our heart space, filling it with light. And just for a moment, feel the energy and presence of your own heart glowing. If you like, you can even visualize Christ in your heart. Maybe he's holding a lamb in his arms. Just feel his glow fill your body, emanating from your own heart. From head to toe, every cell lit up by His presence emanating from the heart. And then expanding into your aura, filling your aura with light. And then that light expanding into the room, into the air, the atmosphere. And the whole room becomes sacred, blessed in this holy light. Each person who enters herein will be touched by the light. Will feel that presence. And it is said that one of the mantras that Christ and the Essenes chanted to bless the world, you could call it a kind of Hebrew Aramaic mantra, ancient mantra that they sang, which is Kadosh, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Savaot. So it's Kadosh, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Savaot. And you'll get it as we chant it together, but imagine that we're chanting this particular mantra to bless the world, for all the beings on this world, including all the bugs, all the plants, all the animals, all the bacteria, all the viruses. May they all be blessed. So you can chant it with me. Kadosh, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Savaot. Kadosh, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Savaot. Kadosh, 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 Adonai. And the light now spreads across the planet to touch the hearts of all beings in this world. Creating a heaven on earth. Imagine earth turned into a heavenly world. Where all the animals are happy. All the people are happy. So much joy. So much joy that everyone is dancing. You can imagine the whole world dancing. And so thank you all so much for coming tonight to be a part of this. I would call it a Christ consciousness gathering. And the purpose of it is to awaken your spirit, your soul, your sense of being. And some people say, well, what's a soul? What's spirit? What does that even mean? That's a really good question. You can't define it. You can't put a word on it. It's impossible to understand. But you can feel it. You see, like it's a great mystery. No one, you could read 1,000 books on spirituality and you still have no idea what the soul is, what the spirit is. Because it cannot be labeled and it can't be sensed by the sense of touch or smell or sight or hearing. You can't even think of it. And yet it's still there. So, this is a gathering in which we ignite our direct experience of the soul. Once you touch into that, you will know exactly what I'm speaking of. Until then, it will only be a philosophical idea. Just a concept. Dry. You know, it's kind of like if someone was to, let's say you tasted sugar, right? And then you were going to tell someone who had never tasted sweetness or sugar before, let me explain to you what it tastes like so you know. And then you might say, well, it tastes nice, comforting, luscious, I don't know, whatever words you might use. Yet you cannot explain sweetness. They have to taste it. Just like the soul, you must commune with your soul in order to get what I'm saying. Otherwise, it will not make any sense to you. And so, in a way, I find myself trying to convince people to search for their soul. You know, and I think to myself, why am I trying to convince people? But it's interesting. It's because we were talking about this before. We as a society have gone so much into achieving worldly things that becomes our delight, that becomes our pleasure, that we miss the spiritual delights, the spiritual energy. And I would say probably 99% of the people on the planet bless you, are missing the spiritual presence. And so therefore 99% of the population is actually unhappy. So I'm speaking about a happiness for no reason, an unstoppable joy, never ever shuts down. And I'm talking about even if a person crashes into your car, or someone yells at you and insults you and attacks you, you could lose your job, lose your 401k, your retirement funds. It does not matter. Your joy is beyond that. You see, I'm kind of giving like extreme scenarios. Most people would be crushed by any one of those situations, right? But the spiritual being is always content with what he or she is, because the happiness comes from within. So then, how do you uncover that soul? That might be the next question to ask is, well then, isn't really everyone searching for happiness, unstoppable happiness? So how do you find that? How do you uncover it? I mean, you can do fun things. Go to Disney World. I don't know if they have a Dallas World.
Six Flags.
Six Flags. You can go to Six Flags. But after a while of going to Six Flags, how many times do you go when you go to Six Flags? Maybe 10, 12, 20 times? You get bored. You get bored after a while, so it only goes so far. You could eat your favorite food, but if you ate that favorite food for every day for a month, you could start to get bored. You start yawning, falling asleep. So then it clearly is not going after worldly things. And you notice even with money, even no matter how much money you have, I'd say probably people who have the most money probably have the most fear. And you know why? They're afraid of losing it. The more stuff you get, the more you have to hold on to it, the more afraid you get of losing it. So I'm not saying just quit your job and don't make any money. Don't be like me. Don't be like me. So my name is Brian, and I'm a wandering monk. I travel across the United States sharing spiritual gatherings like this. All my worldly goods, all my worldly stuff is in my car right outside here. That's all I have. And I visit a lot of different churches, especially unities and centers for spiritual living. And I also visit a lot of yoga studios. I talk a lot about different spiritual traditions. And then, when it comes to churches, oftentimes I'll focus more on Christ because there's more of an understanding. Plus, I have an infatuation with Christ because of his affinity towards love and compassion. So, one could say that to unlock the soul, that if one follows the path of love and compassion, that it's really that simple, that you can activate this powerful presence inside. But I want to kind of expand one more into one other dimension, because there are many people who have served orphanages, built schools, taught children, took care of stray dogs, did all of this stuff, and yet still did not achieve that sort of unstoppable radiance of the heart. So what's missing there? What's missing even with all the service? There's a piece there. And this is what I found. I started the spiritual quest in 2006. And I became what you might call a saint chaser. Do you know what that is? So there are saints all around the world, great beings who have their heart is so big that it just embraces the whole world. They love all the politicians, they love all the rulers of the world, they love everyone, no exception. No one is left out. Even the most evil people are in their hearts, right? That would be called a saint, someone who does not shut down to anyone of the world, right? And so I've been seeking out the company of these beings, trying to find out what's their secret. How is it possible to remain open to everyone, right? Some people it takes decades to forgive someone, who's done harm to you. So how is that possible? And so I would find the company of a saint and I would sit with them and absorb their vibration in the silence. And that is where the real spiritual teaching lies. In the vibration, in the silence, in the company of that being, that they would not need to say a word, and their energy would just rub off on me. And I would feel so much. I often talk about Baba Haridas, the saint that I met in Santa Cruz, the mountains of Santa Cruz. Anyone been to Santa Cruz, California? You have, yeah. There's a place in Watsonville up in the mountains where a saint used to live, and he was in silence for like 60 years. His spiritual master told him, okay, your practice is to be in silence. And so you know how he communicated? Just with a chalkboard. So people would ask him questions and he would write down an answer. They'd ask him questions like, oh, what's the meaning of life? And he'd say, love, peace, or whatever. He would write something on it. And that would be his answer, And so people from all over the world came to be in the presence of this saint. And I went there and I felt so much. Every time I would sit with him, my heart would burst and I would feel this presence and peace that would just carry with me. And so I kept visiting these different beings. And then I found my teacher now, whose name is Swami Purna. And funny enough, I met him in New York City. And he is a yogi from the Himalayas who no one really knows how old he is. He's, one could say, an immortal being, meaning he knows, he can choose when to discard his body. So I thought, well, that's something enough, when a being can choose when their body dies. But there have been many yogis over time. Even Christ could have chosen when to let go of his body. So when I found Swami Purna in New York City, my heart melted. I found an undying love that just sent me into tears. And throughout that gathering in New York City, I was just moved to the core of my being. I didn't really need to even understand what he was saying, but it was the energy of the soul that was present in that gathering that was so strong that I was just bowled over. And from then on, I was dedicated to sharing those teachings, the silent teachings of love, joy, and peace. And likely I will be doing that for the rest of my life. Continuing. And it doesn't matter who shows up. Whether no one shows up or thousands of people show up. It's more about, because the energy of these gatherings is so significantly transformative. so life-changing. How could I not share such a presence with others? So when I spoke to Reverend James on the phone, I don't know when it was, a year ago maybe? I'm not sure. He loved it. So he said, oh, you have to keep coming back. So actually I'm going to be coming back in November, I think around the beginning of November or something. And then doing a series of gatherings in person at the church to go more deeply, immerse into the energy. Because what can happen is you'll catch on. Your heart catches on, and it will carry with you. And then it will carry on to your family and to your friends. And they'll wonder, what are you doing? There's something different about you. Your eyes are alight. Your smile is glowing. And even then, your mind is illuminated too. You talk about inspiration. Very, very few people have true inspirational thoughts. Very few. Most people have thoughts based upon what they have learned from others, from school, from family, from friends, right? So this is how we function in society generally. An inspired thought comes directly from the source. So you didn't learn it anywhere. You didn't study it anywhere. You didn't figure it out. It just dawned upon you and it came through you. And that's where genius comes from, because no one else thought of it. So, and in order to do that, one must let go of all of one's filters and ideas about what life is, what God is, who I am, who you are. When you are completely emptied of everything, then you are sort of like a clear vessel for universal light to come through you and express purely as inspiration. So that is inspiration. As I said, very, very rare, unusual. One of the reasons why I don't prepare for these gatherings at all, because it would be inauthentic. It would be inauthentic. There would be no, because I just don't feel by studying or trying to remember something that something really genuine would come through. That I feel the most beautiful things would come through when the mind is sort of emptied of all preparations. Then, in a sense, the truth could come out purely. So maybe it would be good to share with you a mantra that you could learn and study. This may be one of the most popular mantras, I would say most well-known mantras on earth, and that is the Gayatri Mantra. Does anyone know the Gayatri Mantra? Raise your hand if you know. No one knows it? Okay. Maybe I'll type it. If you leave your email with someone, then I'll send you the Gayatri, and then you can. It would be a worthwhile power word to learn. It's a very, very purifying mantra, and it works on all the chakras, all the energy centers. They call it the heavens, at least in the Bible, they call it the heavens, all the energy centers. And the mantra is Om Bhur Bhuva Svaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Prachodayat. Now, the first person who memorizes this and emails me back will get a prize. I'm joking.
What happens for the last person?
Or you get a gold star. Oh, so if you could actually see what I type through, then I would actually type it through, or I'd hold like a sign or something like that. This is a very, very well-known and sacred mantra that people know throughout the world, and it activates all the chakras, and it provides you with that inspiration. It awakens the inspiration inside you. So the mantra Om Bhur Bhuva Svaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Prachodayat. And the definition of it is we meditate upon that eternal light which is within us. Very briefly, that's the description. And you could add, and it is beyond earth, it is beyond the atmosphere, and it is beyond the highest heavens. So that light, which is beyond everything that you could possibly ever think of or know of in existence, it is beyond that. That is the light, right? The impossible to understand. So, and you know where this so-called, this divine light is located? At the very, very core of your heart. There's a tiny, tiny space. And when you enter into that space, you enter into infinity. As, like I was saying, Buzz Lightyear says, to infinity and beyond. So this is the access point into your infinite self. This is probably already blowing your mind. Your brain is probably smoking by now. But it's good. It's good that that's happening, because the mind is your veil. So I'll repeat that again. The mind is your veil. You are the veil to your spiritual self. He agrees. Yeah, that's your veil. And so when you chant the mantra, it's like it starts to peel away the layers of the mind, like an onion. You keep peeling the onion, it's making you cry. And then you get to the very center, and there's nothing. There's nothing. And that's what you're searching for. Nothing. Someone could ask you, Brian, what are you searching for? Where are you going? I'm searching for nothing. And that would be actually more true than something. Nothing. So, and there's so much joy in being nothing. There's a lot of suffering in being something. When you're nothing, no one can hurt you anymore. You're like air, space. There's no place where someone could attack you, because you are nothing. You're the most humble, humbler than the dust. And that is true freedom. That's why they say that only the innocent child can enter into the kingdom of heaven. Because the child doesn't have so many identities like a normal adult has. We've gained so many identities which are blocking us. So I'll sing it just a few times, and one of the reasons I'm singing it is so that you can re-listen to this again, because, by the way, I'm recording it on my iPhone. I'm so prepared. So then when I record it, I put it on YouTube. Then I send a link out to Reverend James, and then he'll send the recording back to you, And then you can listen to it again and attune to the energy through the recording. That's why I do it. So the energy gets captivated in the recording. So this is how I made up a song I made up a tune for the Gayatri Mantra, and it goes like this. And if you want to become aware of the true meaning, the spiritual meaning of that mantra, you must let go of your mind now. Letting go of all the events of your day, your week, your year, your life, your whole history. Letting go of all of that as if you were newly born and you did not know anything. A newborn baby, free of all conditioning. Letting yourself float upon that mantra. in communion with that mantra, you can truly say, I am nothing and I am everything. I am the smallest and I am the biggest. I am the atom and I am the universe. And you literally feel yourself to be all through